What's up, everyone? I'm Liz Hunt.
And I'm Chelsea Poppins.
And this is the Agency Rocket Show, where we talk about the chaos of running our very own creative agency.
We are on episode 3 of our website series where we're breaking down our process. We've talked about our different phases throughout and then a couple other key items. But today we're going to be talking about the Kickoff Sitemap meeting and the Discovery meeting in tandem. So our Kickoff and Sitemap meeting is highly important before we even get to like the entire design phase, because we're setting up for success for the rest of the project and setting expectations. We're setting up what those phases look like, how long it's going to take to get to the next phase so that our clients' expectations are already set as we move forward. And we can always reflect back on this meeting of what they said, what we said, and kind of just constantly reminding our client of what we pitched in the beginning so that they understand like everything's been clear from the start. There's no confusion around anything. A big piece of that is that kickoff meeting that like Liz will walk them through creating a sitemap. Not everybody knows what a sitemap is, especially our clients. Liz, can you give us a little bit of rundown of what that looks like?
There's a lot of things that happen on our end before ever walking into that kickoff and sitemap meeting with the client when we're talking about a website. First thing that happens is we scope out what's going to be on their website. Now, this is if the client and we already have a really solid plan in place for what their website is going to be. If a client is coming to us and there is a lot of questions around what they need on the website, what types of functionality and plans, maybe it's like a very complex, large website. If a client is coming to us with that kind of problem for us to solve, then we run this meeting very, very differently. We start with, hey, client, you're going to pay us for discovery time. And in that discovery time, we are going to collaborate with you on what actually needs to be on the website. And together we will build out sitemaps and wireframes with the client. And we'll spend time putting together almost like a prototype, but it'll be like wireframes that are very, very high fidelity wireframes with the client. So let's say it's a pretty basic, simple site, like you have a home, about services, products, whatever it is. Before going into a sitemap meeting, a kickoff meeting, and you have a good solid idea of what it is that you are doing with them, what I like to do is first, I will go look at their competitors' sites and I will go check out what are some of their competitors doing that I think are great ideas. What kinds of pages are they offering? What kinds of solutions are they providing? What kind of messaging and language are they using? What kind of, what's their content strategy even? How are they telling the story of their company and the products and services that they offer, and essentially doing a competitive analysis so that I can start really building out a super solid plan for what I am recommending to the client that we do for their website. Then I also start obviously taking into account the client's needs and their goals and what they've told me in some of our initial prospect meetings, like our sales meetings and stuff like that we've had with them prior to ever signing a contract with us. I'll obviously start bringing some of those things into it, like, hey, we are really leaning into needing to hire more people. And maybe that to me says, okay, we need to have a career section front and center on the homepage. And so I'll start kind of like really putting together some of those elements. What that looks like is when we come to the actual sitemap meeting with the client, I will have an Excel doc. Well, actually it's a Google Sheets because who in the design world actually uses Microsoft? Anyway, but so we'll have a Google Sheet that's set up with all the different pages, subpages, drop downs, things like that. And then we'll have notes. The homepage is going to have a big featured video, and then we're going to have a career section, and then we're going to have this call out and that call out. And so we'll just kind of outline in notes, just like written down what's going to be on each kind of page, what kind of content, what if there's any sort of special functionality, for example, like, hey, this needs to integrate with this API system or, whatever it is. we'll start outlining those kinds of things. And so that when we bring the sitemap to the client for that initial meeting, we say, okay, client, this is what our plan is for the website. And we have outlined it all. These are, and I try to explain it to the client in the most simple terms, because again, we build websites every day. The client does not. Layman's terms, not web designer terms, or developer terms. That is how we approach a sitemap meeting, is we do a lot of the upfront work before ever coming to the client with that stuff. And then we talk with them about
to add to that,
need.
I think especially if you're a creative tuning in or you're just diving into like creating websites, I think it's important to Liz's point to come, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And if you come to the meeting and you don't have a clue of the industry or the space or what competitors look like or what other people might be doing, you're gonna have some disconnect with your client, and they're gonna know that you are unaware of their industry and unaware of the language being used, especially like, for instance, the medical world or the chiropractic world, or like those are very specific as far as call to actions that are usually placed throughout, or even from an SEO perspective too. If you haven't looked at competitors, you're going to show up pretty ignorant, and the client's going to know that. So the best advice to you or to like anybody is always like spend some time preparing and getting to know your client even before you step into the meeting, because that's like 100% of why we're successful in our projects, because we do the work up front.
Yeah. And to that end, it shows that you are in charge of the project from the beginning, because you show up with something ready to present, ready to lead the project, ready to be in charge, because you're like, okay, this is what we're doing. This is the plan. And then if you continue to do that throughout the process, it shows that you are the one leading the client through the process and not the other way around.
Yeah. And the customer experience of it all is like, if the customer is driving the conversation, it's not easy for them. They have to show up with all the information. They have to teach you about their industry. And yes, there's the whole discovery of you learning about them. But if they're having to teach you the ins and outs of their industry, you're not doing your due diligence. You're wasting their time and yours by not showing up prepared.
Yeah, exactly. That's like a really easy way for you as a designer to show up prepared. If I'm like on the fence about some pages, or I'm like, I like this idea, but maybe it's out of scope, I include those in the sitemap, but I just have them down below the main framework of the site. And I just say, here's some options, or here's some extra ideas that I put together. Also in our Google Doc, what I do is I add in like questions for clients for the meeting. Like, for example, we just started working with an accounting firm. They have a lot of disclosures, different certifications that they have to put in certain places. And so those were some of my questions. Were like, hey, what are some of the logos and legal disclosures that you need to have in your footer? And so I made sure and added those things to my list of questions for them to send over, so that those things didn't get forgotten.
Yeah. And so that's how you delight like the client.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Letting them know that you are prepared and that you know what you're doing. It's great. So that's the kind of the sitemap meeting in in summary. That's how we prepare for it. That's how we present it with the client. It's not sexy. That's the other thing, is I always try to tell clients like, hey, these first couple of website meetings, they're not glamorous. We're going to be looking at an Excel spreadsheet. It's not fun, but I promise you, you do the upfront work and you will get a much better product at the end. Because if you start designing in the beginning, you are going to miss some very, very, very key elements of the site that you definitely wanted. And it's like, if it doesn't matter if your site is super duper pretty, if it's not functioning the way it's supposed to, or if it's not like aligned with your actual goals, it's not doing what you want your website to do, then it doesn't matter if it's pretty.
Yeah. And to be very, very clear, sometimes we have to figure out the pages of the sitemap before we have our contract in place, because our contract is very detailed as far as like we want to
Yeah.
make sure everything's clear of the pages we've
Yeah.
promised, how many revisions, what the scope is, because so
Yeah.
sometimes we have to do the sitemap meeting before our contract gets created, because in our contract we're like, these pages are what's promised. And anytime we step outside of it, like maybe mid-project, someone's like, I want a blog. And that includes a blog, that includes a blog detail page, and that includes more time from our designers and our team that needs to be accounted for. It doesn't always happen in order. Like Liz said, sometimes it's easier to be like, yeah, they just want these pages so we can step into this, like have a contract before that. But it's not always like that. It can kind of be a hybrid approach sometimes.
Yeah. That's totally true. And it is always kind of tricky because in our contracts, what I typically do in a prospect meeting is I talk with them about what it is that they want on the website, what are their goals, all that stuff. And I find out as much detail as I possibly can. And that's kind of where I discover if we need to have an actual discovery time with the client that they pay us to kind of sort through, like building out a sitemap and building out wireframes with them, or if we have enough information that we can actually scope out the website as is. If we can scope out the website as is, then I put it in the contract. Okay, these are the pages that we're building out. This is the functionality that we're building out. And this is the number of pages that we're building out. So let's say it's like we're developing out and designing out 13 like page templates, let's say, but we have to write content for, 17, right? Because there's more than 3 services or something. It's stuff like that we build into the scope of the contract. And so that's how we fall back on the contract of like, okay, if you do want to add a blog, that's not in our 13 templates. And so that's great. Yes, and we'll send you an estimate for adding the blog to those, 13 templates or whatever. So that's kind of how we fall back on that.
And to reiterate, the kickoff meeting is setting the stage for the project. So we have our introductions. We talk about project goals, what our vision is, any roles and responsibilities, because a lot of times they want to know who is the best person to send this information to. And majority of the time it's Liz and I, and they need to know that because we'll have a lot of people in that initial meeting just so everybody can hear exactly what's being said straight from the horse's mouth. We also talk about timelines and not on top of the sitemap meeting before we get into, which is the next phase, discovery meeting, where it's, if we need it, it's very in depth and we ask a lot of different questions, but it helps us scope out competitors a little bit more, goals, 5-10-year goals, helps the client kind of reiterate how they see themselves versus how we see them in their industry, and to negate any biases either we have or our designers have. Because I think, Liz, you know this, like as a designer, it is very easy to compartmentalize or box in a business just into a specific industry, just because you've seen all these different things out there and you're like, this is what the rest of them look like. So I guess maybe I should create something that looks very similar. So our discovery meeting is that next phase after the kickoff meeting.
If you haven't listened to it, we talk about our discovery meeting in our branding series. I think it was last season, right?
Yep.
Chelsea? Go back and listen to it. In our branding series, we talk about the discovery workshop that we do in kind of like the branding umbrella. So obviously there's a few things different that we do if we're only building a website that was like large.
Did you hear that? I didn't know if you could hear me. My whole neck cracked, Sometimes we be a little stiff over here.
Oh my gosh. No, it makes me want to crack mine. Whew. Okay.
I didn't realize it was that loud. Sometimes, when you think something's only in your head.
Yes.
Like when you're chewing like Cheerios or something and you think you're the only one that can hear the crunch.
Yes.
Sorry, listeners, if that gave you the ick.
Willies. That's funny. The ick. No, it didn't give me the ick because I crack my neck all the time. But
you're like, what else can I crack? And just goes about it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna start cracking everything.
But yeah, discovery meetings.
Sometimes when I can crack my ankle at any time just by like moving it or something, but it sounds like it's like grinding. And Andrew hates it so much. He thinks it's so disgusting, but I think it's hilarious. that he
I'm
thinks
right
it's
there
gross.
with you. I can crack pretty much any part these days.
Yes.
I think if I do, yeah, my elbow, my you name it.
I know. I think it's because I'm almost 40 and things just be cracking, you know?
After 30s, it's all downhill physically.
It really is. It really is. Oh my
I was like, I
gosh.
don't know
Okay.
what it felt like to wake up with a little bit of pep in my step.
I don't even remember. I don't even remember that. Like
Never
those
was.
days. It never was. Anyway, discovery meetings. So discovery meetings, they are different for doing a website. There's like a whole kind of section where we really focus on logos and kind of a brand aesthetic where we change that around and focus more on general marketing, website look and feel and stuff. And then there's some of it that we even just don't talk about because then we circle into an interactive mood board that looks very, very different from a logo version of it. It's a website version of it that we do. And I think that's what we're going to talk about in our next episode. So stay tuned for that conversation. But for a discovery conversation around a website, it's different because whenever you're doing a branding workshop, you are talking the brand. You know, it's like this whole big thing. But when you're doing a discovery workshop with a client and you're just working on their website, you still need to understand the whole picture of who they are, their whole brand. But what you are building out is a small kind of, I suppose maybe not too small, because a website is a kind of a big deal for a brand, but just a section of the brand. It's a little bit different whenever you're doing it that way, but you still need to understand who they truly are and who their audience is and their messaging and you know all these kinds of things in order to accurately represent them through their digital experience, you know.
Yeah. And it helps with the alignment of thought because a lot of business owners can come in and think this is what they want for the website, but it not be what's best for the user. So it just helps them think outside of their own perspective, stepping into that to think that like what is going to best meet the needs of people finding this website? Like when they get there, what do you want them to do? And what do they want to do at the same time? So there's like a whole psychology behind it too, as you navigate that user experience. And we help lead the horse to water per se in the discovery meeting is like by asking the questions and making them think outside of their standard line of thinking.
Something that I've mentioned to clients every once in a while that I think helps them understand whenever we're building a website is that you're telling a story, and that's what you want to do on the website. But you're not only telling your story, you have to think about it as the customer is the hero of the story. And that's, I think, sometimes a mind shift for a lot of people, especially for business owners, because in most people's minds, they are the hero of their own story. And they are the main character, you know, it's this idea of like main character energy, you know. But the thing is like when you are a business and especially a small business owner and you're running an organization, your mindset has to shift to the customer has to be your main character in the story. And that's how we want to think about writing content. That's how we want to be designing things. That's how we want to build our content strategy. That's how we want to build our entire user experience for every piece of digital design that we have. You know, the customer needs to be the main character of the story. And so instead of making your website be, this is who I am, and this is what we do for you, and this is, you know, it needs to be swapped, and this is how this makes your life better. And this is the benefit to you, customer. Hey, customer, this is what's going to happen for your life. It just needs to be switched from you as the main character to your customer being the main character of the narrative on your website. And so that's something that I've been encouraging a lot of clients recently to be thinking about whenever we are just even discussing websites and the narrative of the website. And I think that will help.
That's great. Because we all want to be the hero of our own story.
Yeah. Exactly. Everybody does. I mean, nobody wants to be told that they're the side character. But I think when it comes to running a business, that is what has to happen, is the customer has to be the hero of the story.
And also because there's a million businesses doing what you do out there sometimes, a lot of the time. And to put it back into the users or your customers' hands, to be like, if you take this action, it's going to benefit your life in this way. Like just reframing it, because everyone's out there saying that they are the solution to your problem. And there's a million people screaming that, whether that's digitally, whether that's on their truck, all marketing everywhere these days. And it's overstimulating sometimes. Putting the power back into your customers' hands is really so key, because go into the whole psychology of people feeling powerless everywhere. We could dive into that.
Especially in this landscape, I think many people feel powerless. And so if as a company, as an organization, we can do what we can to make people feel in control of something, you are well on your way to doing it right. In your marketing, in your business, whatever it is.
So, key takeaway from this episode, I would say, is starting with a great strategy before you dive into design is key to the success of your project and your customers, your clients' experience with you. So don't skip this part. Don't rush through. Make sure your project is set up for success and that all the details, all the expectations are aligned before you dive into just like, let's like slap some color on it. This is a larger piece of the project than anybody really realizes than just stepping in and activating on it. And I'm an activator, so me saying that means a lot. I'm like, well, let's just do it. But there is some art and poetry to it. Yeah. So
for sure.
Thanks for joining us.
Listening. Yeah.
And if you like this podcast, no, you're good. If you like this podcast, please like, share, follow, and send to all your friends.
Yes. Okay. Bye.
Bye.